Thank you for joining me for another episode of the blog JaneK the Explorer. I'm Janie, for those of you who don't know me, and today on my edition I'm going to be talking about the biography Into the Wild, which is written by JaneK Rakauer. Similar name. He wrote about Chris McCandless, who's a 24-year-old who ventured into the wilderness in search of himself to escape his kind of begrudging life. He was an Emory graduate, and he was on the track to becoming a lawyer, but he kind of changed his point of view on his perspective of life and decided to run away into the wilderness to kind of discover himself. So I wrote a Facebook post which went viral on the internet and got a lot of comments regarding this biography. Of the many comments, I've selected 3 individuals to partake in a live audio conversation. First, I'd like to introduce Willow LaRue, a distinguished naturalist and mountaineer whose works have been published in National Geographic. Another guest is Brenda Johnson, a middle-aged mother and renowned author of several ethics and morality novels. And finally, there's Jackie Hopper, a senior in high school who, like Chris, is discerning her future.
Hello, everyone.
So glad to be here.
It's nice to meet you all. So each of you has read Into the Wild by JaneK Rakauer. I'd like to kick off our conversation by noting that some people in the comments of my Facebook post harshly criticized McCandless for his foolishness and some applaud his spirit. Where do you all fall among the readers?
Contrasting with the view that Chris took on an incredible adventure, I feel that the negative implications of his journey make his actions less admirable. Chris was careless and selfish, and only considering himself when he made the rash decision to venture across the country. When reading the biography, Wayne Westerberg's commentary really stuck with me when he says, "If Alex was here right now, I'd be tempted to chew him out good. What the hell were you thinking? Not speaking to your family for all that time? Treating them like dirt. As a mother of 2 young boys, given all that I provided to my children to support their success, it would seem immoral for them to not consider my stance in such a decision. How could a child disregard the feelings of their loved ones, abandoning them without any explanation?" Another view from Outside Magazine also wonders why any son would cause his parents and family such permanent and perplexing pain. His decision is unethical, clearly motivated by self-interest, treating his family like dirt, and not consulting them first. Furthermore, it is apparent that Chris thinks idealistically, as he chooses to not cope with his issues at hand. An irresponsible choice.
Well, speaking from an environmentalist point of view, I believe that Chris exemplified leadership in his decisions. The biography parallels my opinion when Krakauer claims that he wasn't incompetent. He wouldn't have lasted 113 days if he were, and he wasn't a case, he wasn't a sociopath, he wasn't an outcast. McCandless was something else. Although precisely what is hard to say, Pilgrim, perhaps his chosen lifestyle, while considered unconventional by many, illustrates qualities of great tenacity and perseverance, since McCandless chose not to take the easy way out, staying loyal to his plan to travel on foot and live out of a backpack. Furthermore, Chris took the initiative to pursue his ideals in order to fulfill his inner curiosity toward nature, a risk that to any other individual may seem scary in face of the other priorities. Moreover, while Chris is not seeking religious freedom, I can see how he reflects a pilgrim-like role. While seeking freedom in nature to follow his belief of a simple life, Chris may have been stubborn in his decision to have a life of family and set future behind, yet he did something many cannot do, and for that he was courageous.
I think this debate is a good segue into another question I wanted to bring up with you ladies. Why do you think people are so divided in their opinion of Chris after reading the biography?
I think people are criticizing him for being reckless and arrogant, probably because they themselves are fearful of taking a risk that deviates from the norm and are there projecting the hostilities onto Chris. Even the biography notes on page 67 that, unlike most of us, he was the sort of person who insisted on living out his beliefs. McCandless' intentions were to live a life fulfilled, unlike the one his father envisioned for himself. Krakauer himself also identified with this point of view when he said, "I believe we are similarly affected by the skewed relationships we had with our fathers, and I suspect we had a similar intensity, heedlessness, agitation of the soul." It is clear that Chris felt an agitation towards the fact that his father pushed him to pursue something he was not interested in. Moreover, it seems as though Chris regards his childhood as one compromise of fabrications and lies. Therefore, he can only find reality in living his life in the best way he feels is possible, opposite from the life authored by his parents.
I am not quite sure how cutting himself off from civilization and his family can be deemed as an act of courage. Chris acts not from courage, but is rather running away from the challenges at home and confronting his responsibilities. responsibilities. Upon entering the wild, Rakauer describes when Chris arranged all his paper currency in a pile in the sand, a pathetic little stack of 1s and 5s and 20s, and put a match to it. $123 in legal tender was promptly reduced to ash and smoke. Instead of giving this amount of money to help someone in need, he selfishly chose to burn it and denies its worth by treating it as though it had no significance at all. While Chris lived a generally lavish lifestyle, by burning the money, he is not using his privilege to serve the common good, a rash and ill-advised decision. Moreover, McCandless, who criticizes people for acting selfishly, seems to fall directly in the same egocentricity he believes is assumed by those around him. In addition, McCandless neglects to communicate his feelings with his family. When later confiding in his sister Corrine about the deceiving nature of his parents, Rakauer characterizes McCandless as someone who did not confront his parents with what he knew. He chose instead to make a secret of his dark knowledge and express his rage obliquely, in silence and sullen withdrawal. By not conveying how he feels, McCandless makes the false assumption that his parents do understand how he is feeling. He does himself a disservice by remaining in a dark place, and in doing so, he acts unfairly towards his parents, people whose role is to listen and tend to their child's struggles. He does not give them the opportunity to potentially provide him with the support he needed.
Jackie, you haven't spoken much throughout this interview, so I have a specific question just for you. How do you suppose people should think of Chris? Was he being heroic, courageous? Was he a hero or a fool? Or maybe he could be both?
As someone who's just beginning her transition to adulthood, I think that on one hand, Chris was a bit thoughtless in his choice to completely abandon reality. As stated in the biography, McCandless said that he wanted to prove himself that he could make it on his own without anyone else's help. A part of life is dependency, and here it's evident that he's dismissing the reality that we need each other for emotional support and thus is denying the social behavior that is human nature. While creating spaces where we can be alone is at times something we need as humans, a feeling of too much dependency can threaten one's autonomy and decision-making capabilities. On the other hand, I believe it's critical that one empathize with Chris. On page 57, Rakauer states that people who are unhappy do not take leadership to change because they are conditioned to a life of security, conformity, and conservatism, all of which may appear to give one peace of mind, but in reality, nothing's more damaging to the adventurous spirit within a man than a secure future. As a teen, I too feel the need to escape security, conformity, and conservatism, as these can feel suffocating and limiting to my ability to pursue my own desired path. It's evident that McCandless too felt hindered by societal pressures, causing him to pursue a deeper relationship with nature.
Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today. Chris McCandless walked into the wild to find meanings and orders in his life by connecting with nature. Many think that he was unprepared for how harsh the conditions of nature could be. Chris, on the other hand, regarded his Alaska fantasy as a gateway from the reality and society. In this light, he was courageous for going after what he wanted, even though that meant living out of a backpack with limited materials. Chris McCandless died over 3 decades ago. Nevertheless, his spirit remains to influence countless people. Thanks for listening to my vlog. Comment below or add on to the Facebook discussion like we talked about. Thanks for joining me for another episode, and I hope to see you next week. Bye, explorers.